Alright, what's up, YouTube peeps?
So, we've got another deck profile of a ridiculous deck that I'm sure you're all aware of. Nubatama Shiranui Dominate. I'm going to be pretty quick with this one, we all know what this deck does, we all know it's pretty good, but I do...
Yeah, it rips stuff out of your hand, it kills you.
Yeah, basically makes you hit yourself. You know,
Stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself. Jinx, you owe me some. Haha!
At a recent ARG, I did bring this deck to it, and it got me 4th place overall, so I was pretty happy about that. I'll be pretty quick with this one, just because of camera.
Camera's okay.
Well, we want more stuff. First things first, we have our 4 Shiranui Zankis. Yeah. You ride and stride on this thing, it
Dominates twice, rips cards out of your opponent's hand. I don't know why the second ability only lets you draw. That's the weirdest part about this one.
Oh, because I just have to make it so balanced in my favor, of course. Yeah, basically this thing combos with your deck, your G-Zone, Rene, to combo for 3 cards ripped out of hand. And you don't even minus off it either, because, yeah, like Lee said, you draw off it. Being able to also dominate on ride means that you can go first and not actually suffer too much because of it, just because you're able to get something out of it, so... Pretty neat. Oh, and the cool thing is it can attack any unit and not just your opponent's Vanguard, so that's always a nice toolbox for this. Yeah, you want to ride this all the time, but for our other grade 3s, we are playing 3 Shiranui Oberos. Originally this was more Shige, but I found out that you always want to be in a Shiranui Vanguard, and you want to be dominating as much as possible. This isn't a bad card, it's just compared to this just kind of is worse in almost every way, well. Because when you call from the drop zone, it doesn't negate auto abilities, so it does limit your options as to what you can do from that with that second skill. And the first skill, while technically, I guess, better power-wise, since it gives 4K as opposed to 2K, is only on stride, so you can't ride this thing, dominate, then stride, and then dominate again, so...
And if you're out stride, that's 4K anyway.
Yep. So this just exists so you can have backup Vanguard, because this is Vanguard, and chances are you will be riding something that's not Zanki, so... good backup. So that's it for the grade 3s, as unexciting as it is. We'll go to the grade 2s, which are a little more exciting. Here we've got... 4 10k vanillas.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you weren't playing that before.
No, I was playing Enbys. Reason being that I decided to go this route. I'm not happy about it, but there is one weakness in this deck. It is getting rushed against. And so what this does, it at least mitigates the ability to do that. For example, Dark Irregulars can be a little bit pesky because they'll be calling their Succubuses of Jealousy or maybe their Demented Executioners early game to get cards with their soul, but then also poking you with them. So basically having this as a ride target means that then they have to call another card if they want to be able to attack you, and that's less cards later game, or they just can't hit in general. So this definitely does help mitigate the early game weakness of Nubatama. In fact, so many people love 10Ks, I've seen deck profiles that are running like 5 or even 6 of these 10K vanillas, but I just think there's a lot...
Now the important question. Why this one and not the ninja dude with the sword?
I don't think I have him. Although I do like that guy's art better, so if I could find him, I'd probably play that.
You have failed.
But yeah, like I said, not happy about this choice, but just general for mitigating the deck's weaknesses. But for the other grade 2s that actually do things, we've got here 3 Metsus. Basically what this guy does is when he's placed in Vanguard or Rearguard, you bind the top card of your deck. It's mandatory. Second skill is much more useful. When a dominant unit attacks, you counterblast 1, he gains 10k, you add that card to your hand. Or any card in your bind zone, so... If you play the Raccoon, you can't actually build a stockpile and keep using this guy throughout the game, but we don't have room for the Raccoon, so we only really get him as like a one-use, as really a one-time thing, and then just intercept with him after, but still a very good grade 2 to have.
Tamahagane.
Helps you keep advantage too, just because he's adding cards in your bind zone. Speaking of advantage, we run 3 Stealth Rogue Obliquizations that Agatsu's.
Liquidation.
Really good card. First ability, if you have a Shiranui Vanguard, it's just an 11k beat stick, which you always will be on a Shiranui Vanguard if you're doing this build. So it doesn't need to be boosted, and that's all kinds of nice things. Second skill is at the end of the battle that your rearguard attacked a Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, retire the unit that attacked, and you get to draw a card. It does lose the auto ability for the rest of the turn, which is neat, because it's not a once per turn restriction, so if there is something that attacked that you don't want to retire, you can just not use the skill and just use it for something else. Drawing cards is always nice, and, of course, dominating units are new units, so you can retire your opponent's rearguards. It's basically just like a big middle finger when you're playing this deck, just to be like, I make your unit attack with you, then I'm going to kill it off and draw a card off that, by the way. Eric hates this deck a lot, by the way. It's actually, I think, his most hated deck, so.
I think a lot of you out there also probably hate the deck.
Next, two unguys. Just because people will be like, haha, I can just hope to get triggers. And then this negates triggers because you can choose your opponent's Vanguard and decrease its power to 11. While it also is really useful because you can make things like triggers 11k boosters, or you can make grade 2s 11k so you don't have to be boosted to hit, so it's a really good card. First skill you won't really use that much, but it's pretty handy if you do. You can choose a card from your hand, discard it when a down unit attacks, and then draw a card. It's not Gen Break restricted, which is pretty neat, so there is something going on with that with Zombie if you want to
Can hand fix a little bit.
So yeah. Nice 2 of. So next is for the grade 1s, and there's a lot of really good grade 1 options for Nubatama, but I ultimately chose this. We'll start with 4 PGs. I'll say this right now, if you have access to the damage and flipping PG, play that. This isn't a bad card. It's just its requirement that a dominating unit needs to hit the Vanguard is almost impossible to get, especially when you have, this asshole who just basically incentivizes your opponent not to let them hit. But I guess if they do, and you have 2 of these and drop, then you can get a PG back to your hand, which I guess it's only the one that makes it worth it, so. Not a bad card, but I would just recommend the damage and flipping PGs if you have access to them. I don't. I hope I hope later on I will, and we'll probably edit this deck a little bit, but for now, we'll just go with this. Next, 4 Strike Potters, because we like to strike. Striking is important, folks. Also, lets you search out for the right Shiranui. Never play less than 4. I've seen some Nubatama decks go to 3 or 2. Don't do that. Next, I'll just do these together. We run 3 Stealth Dragon Ozais and 3 Stealth Beast Mixed Frogs. Basically what these 2 do is they ensure that if your opponent is trying to be funny and call down triggers, well, you basically be like, well, I'm going to give them power. This gives 3k, and it's not Gen Break restricted, and he gains 3k when you have a grade 4 Vanguard, so he can be a nice beat stick. And he's not Gen Break restricted, so that's nice, so you can use him for your on-ride Zombie. This gives 6k and goes back to the soul to refund cost, so these are 2 very nice grade 1 options to have, and that's ultimately what I went with. Just to ensure that Renee is going to be doing as much as possible, no matter what the opponent does.
Unless they're playing Bermudas and call that 0k crit.
Oh god, yeah, that's going to be terrible. Next, the trigger lineup.
I suppose also Nemain. But either way,
leave red if you play Alt Nile. But you rarely see those cards, and those are very specific situations.
Well, if you want to talk about stuff that counters this deck, Libero, the gas something, the card that needs a bind for Gear Chronicle Metal Party.
Yeah, but you might have the Mets use well now. If you're playing the
sometimes,
Raccoons,
but not always,
yeah.
Especially if it's the 11k one. And then the 11k for Tachikaze, the 10k for, that's actually, I think, just called 10k.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you just have to be careful about that, but you'll rarely see it. Next for the trigger lineup, we'll go... So the trigger lineup's a bit interesting. If you can't see, this is 7 crits. You've got your Heart Thumpworker clone, goes into Soul, gives you Soul because this deck runs through it a lot, and makes you draw a card and gives your Shiranui Vanguard 5k. Neat. And then 3 Torsadas, it's a, what is it, Red Lightning? Yeah, Red Lightning Club. Recharges your resources, nice and easy and accessible. So, 7 crits for that. Only 7 because we want to make room for 2 stand triggers. For some reason I end up seeing these a lot, even though I only run 2. I don't know why. If you probably watched the Gridora versus Shiranui match, you saw that I was checking this thing a lot. Would like to run 3 if I had 3, or even a play set. But right now 2's working for me. This thing, when you have less cards than your opponent, you draw a card, so it refunds itself, and it goes back into the deck and gives something 3k. So you can give your Metsus 3k, so it's 22 instead of 19, and over that 21k threshold. And most importantly, yeah, it returns itself back to the deck, so recyclable stand triggers are always nice. Next, 3 draws. When you get rushed and you damage check this thing, it helps you get cards back in your hand.
It's also a Margot clone, but it gives it to anything.
Yep. So I guess if you want to recharge Soul and get something over a a threshold for domination, this helps with that. Next.
It's weirdest wording, because I'm 90% sure original Margot doesn't have that.
Yeah, I think this is the only one that actually has that. Next, 4 of your field triggers that everyone gets except for like Grand Blue. Counter charges and soul charges when you G-guard.
Counter charges or soul charges.
So always useful to have. Get these if you want to play this deck. Next is our starter. We have Stealth Dragon Burai. The reason I play this over Madoy is one, that Madoy is gen break restricted and this is not, so if you go first, you can activate this guy's skill. It's also, so it not being gen break restricted is a nice thing to have. He kind of just grew on me, really. Especially when your opponent has a card in their drops and you can make them call that and have it attack their starter and stuff like that. So this card,
especially anything like Royal Paladin, where they can just fill their board up with stuff you can't dominate.
Yeah.
Having that to just be an outlet, like, okay, I'll grab that thing from your drop zone.
It's a nice toolbox, I think, essentially. And definitely gives a lot of options, especially working well with Zanki's on ride skill. So if you go first, this is an option so you can have things to do, instead of it just being worthless. G-Zone time, yay. So here's your deck. Here's your G-Zone.
Here's your sign.
This card's probably one of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest reason, why Vanguard needs a reboot like it is doing right now.
I don't think that card's specifically the reason. I think they needed a reboot, and so they're like, okay, let's just take the limits off of everything.
This card's ridiculous.
And Nubatama's like, excuse me, did I hear taking the limits off?
So this card's ridiculous. I'm sure you all know what it does, but if you don't, well, you counterblast when you flip a copy of them over, and you force your opponent to call 2 cards from your hand, and they gain 5k, and then you make them attack your opponent's Vanguard. It's basically a big middle finger, is what this thing does. The only way that this card is not 100% broken is that it does require Persona Flip, because imagine if this card could flip anything over, like Alexandros or something like that. Then yeah, that'd be some fun.
I haven't heard some people suggest that it really should be GB4 instead of GB3.
It really should be GB4, because this GB3 skill is ridiculous, since the second Rene turns will usually mean that you're getting 3 dominated attacks at least 15k.
Get 10k and crit.
Yeah, at least 15k guard of a crit. This card is just stupid. This entire deck runs around the interaction with him and Zanki, and basically being able to be 3 cards from your hand and...
3 cards from your hand, minimum.
Yep, minimum. You can do certain variations of this build where you're running some of the after image, bind stuff from your hand stuff, which would make this card even more ridiculous, so... Yeah, not really much to say about this card except Bushiroad needs to do something about it. Next, we play 2 Mugen Lords.
In case you run out of Rene.
In case you run out of Rene and you can't Ultimate Stride, this guy is useful and fun to play, actually, because he actually is one of the only card in Nubatama that can dominate an entire field. And basically at 5 damage, this is a really devastating finisher, actually, so this is not a bad card, but we only play him at 2 because we have other things in the G-Zone to use, but always nice to have. I think I actually went into him at ARG once. Speaking of interesting cards, we play 2 Malcontenders.
In case something has to die.
Yeah, in case if you're playing like Dark Irregulars and you really want to retire that deranged singer, then you can go into this.
Singular.
Late game, this can also be pretty devastating in case you've run out of Renes. You can take over one of your opponent's units and put them up to a big number because this gives 3k for each face-up card in your G-Zone. So yeah, this is always a nice, useful card to have at least 2 of. Used to be a 4 of, but not anymore. Finally, we have our Tex. Seabreeze.
Okay.
Gen break that.
That's fine. Go ahead, next card.
Shiranui Murkrow. Tech and a board wipe. You dominated your opponent's Vanguard, you get a twin drive off this, so you're essentially getting 5 drive checks in a turn.
Also, look how shiny he is.
One of my favorite cards, actually, this is the card that probably made me think that Nubatama was fun to play. By the way,
and that's back when Nubatama was fun to play.
Instead of just being Rene all the time. By the way, a couple rulings with this thing. When your Vanguard is being dominated, you can't guard because you technically don't have a Vanguard.
It's the weirdest thing. Like, not even with grade 0.
So you can't reference your Vanguard's grade to guard. I actually will be interested when the new...
There's nothing lower than 0. Why can't I drop my 0s? It doesn't make sense.
Interestingly enough, when the new rules come into effect that essentially say you don't need to guard, you can guard above your grade, I wonder if that means then you can guard.
Oh.
Because I'll have to see the wording on it, but if it's not referencing your Vanguard's grade, then I guess when this thing is played, you can guard from hand, but as of right now, no.
That'll be nice.
By the way, you can't intercept, though, because intercepts exist as a part of an ability, and not referencing the Vanguard. So.
You can't intercept, though, because the intercept is being attacked.
No, I saw something, though, that said that Boucher did say you can't intercept. It's kind of weird, but I saw something like that.
If there were some way to call an interceptor that wasn't being attacked, it could intercept, but we've had the ruling since Kaiser. It can't intercept if it is being attacked at the time.
No. One of him, that's all you really need. One of them against a Regalia matchup, actually, to stop the Minerva. Oh, I'm forgetting something.
Don't add Drachma! Drachma's so fun, though!
He actually works pretty well in this deck, just because of the rulings regarding domination, where you can stand and dominate a unit, and then Drachma goes into rule check, so you can wipe your opponent's board except for that unit because it's yours. And then once Drachma's skill fully resolves, then it's half with it. I don't know, I think most of the time games are usually won or lost based on Rene. And so this kind of exists as more of a late game option rather than just like, I should prefer to go into this. As always, when you're playing Drachma, just pay attention to your opponent's drive checks. Because this card is really good if you're really good at reading your opponent's hand. So, definitely encourage...
It's also goofy and funny.
Definitely encourage playing a Drachma. You should always play a 0 off in your deck if you have access to one. G-Gar time.
I could see some, like, Bermuda players passing on Megiddo.
Yeah, just because Megiddo doesn't really synergize the deck. Abu Taishi.
Cheap! Next card.
Yeah, cheap 5k. Covers the situation. 1 Gandoran.
Potentially big! Next card.
Yeah. 2 of these.
Interesting combos! Continue talking.
War Tiger Plunder is a pain in the ass. So you play 2 of these because there's a lot of ridiculous grade 1s that you just want to steal.
So it's effectively like they took Advanced Guard Dragon and added 5k and didn't make it need to G-Flip.
It is a counterblast and a soul blast, so you do have to be careful when you use this and be mindful of your resources, but other than that I do find 2 very useful, just because, yeah, there are grade 1s that are just ridiculous and pain in the ass to deal with. Also, deleters. I was playing a deleter player and he called the grade 1 and I rode first up to grade 3, so I was like, oh, you're that give and play? Yoink, that grade 1. Oh, I'm sorry, you can't give in now. So it's a disrupted G-Guard, which is always nice. Zashikime.
Look at that face. Look at that face. That's why you run it. Look at that face.
I don't know, like, the mind games are
no,
fun.
Face.
She is cute. The mind games are fun. This card can be a pretty big meaty shield, you just have to be mindful of when you use it. So it does take a little bit of skill, but I think it's still worth at least keeping 1 copy of her in your deck.
Alright, so we're about to sign off. So tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take your entire deck, and we're just going to take the rest of these things and put them somewhere else.
So yeah, here's our deck.
Plus 40 some odd, no, let's see, 49, 50.
62 cards. 62 cards to support it, and fill out the rest of the slots.
62 pieces of filler. Oh, no, 58 pieces of filler, Zonky, and then a deck.
So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of this deck profile. Let me know what you all play. And as always, have fun playing Vanguard, I guess. Oh, and brush your teeth.
And your lucky number of the day is...
7.